with the explosion of drag and drive, I really have to believe that this is what it must have felt like back in the late 60s, early 70s when drag racing was just exploding. Well, it's actually it's really a funny story because I never really intended to create a drag and drive. I actually wanted to have a poker run. And it was going to be a 3-day deal, and it was going to have payouts and stuff. And then when the Gaming Commission found out what we were going to do, they didn't tell me that I couldn't do it, but they recommended that I don't. So with that, then I basically just said, well, let's just create another drag and drive event. And it was a small one, a 3 or 4 day one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough to get Summit Racing's attention. They signed on up and, just kind of took off from there. But you're right. I mean, I am a full-time promoter. I do the Summit Racing Midwest Drags. We've got another event now that has kind of made full circle where we're doing with autocross cars. And that's called Summit Racing AutoCross Week, presented by UMI Performance. And then also I assist with the 3 C10 national shows. So there's 5 shows a year that we actually produce, as well as attending shows in a promotional manner.
Wow, dude, you're a busy guy.
Yeah, because I mean, as soon as I'm done with this phone call, we're going to load on up 2 cars, and we're heading on up to Detroit for the Detroit Autorama. We've got 2 cars. We've got Brian Havlic's 55 Chevy with his trailer. Completely fresh off of sick week. I don't even know that he's taken all the road grime and sand off of it yet. And that's going to be in one corner of the Summit booth. And then in the other corner of the Summit booth, we're going to have Jesse Vaughn's truck from Level 7, who builds square bodies for autocross. So half of the Summit Racing booth at the Detroit Autorama is going to have 2 of my vehicles promoting the Summit Racing Midwest Drags presented by Mickey Thompson Tires. And then in the other corner is going to be Summit Racing Autocross Week presented by UMI Performance. So we're moving.
Dude, that's awesome. The coolest part about, I think about once people realized you can, let's beat on stuff for a couple of days in a row. Like the Autocross Week. I mean, other than, I guess One Lap of America really doesn't, that's not even the same kind of deal. Like, are you guys the only autocross?
No. And this is what I'm talking about makes a full circle. Okay.
Yeah.
Freiberger, when he created Drag Week in 2005, he said he was inspired based off One Lap of America. Mm-hmm. And he got the idea, well, instead of we turn left and right, how about we just go in a straight line? That was the birth of Drag Week based off of that. And now here we are 19 years later on, and Summit Racing basically says, they told me when we were renegotiating after my 3-year contract expired and they re-signed for another, they also then said at the conclusion of that meeting, they said, hey, how cool would it be if we had an event that was run exactly like the Midwest Drags, but we just do it with autocross cars? That was the birth of Autocross Week.
That is too cool, man.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that about you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't do all the backwards research. We,
that's
typically
all right.
I like.
That's all right. I don't like to be in the public light, but I mean, to answer your question, yeah, we've kind of made full circle, all based off of One Lap of America and how it inspired Freiberger, how it's inspiring everybody else, and then we're making full circle. And that's, you asked earlier, you said, what's the thing that why Drag and Drive is exploding like it is? There's a couple things, but the biggest thing is because it's inspiring. People are motivated. They come on out. They get excited to see that 3rd-gen Camaro that they used to own 5 years ago that they sold that's running in the 8s. They get inspired and they go home and they open on up the Summit catalog. And they can be involved. And if you really want to know where the credit and the basis for this, I think, comes from, I think there's 2 things. I think when Chevrolet in 2000 came on out with the LS platform, that's number 1. And number 2 is the turbo. Because without those 2 factors, Drag and Drive would basically be the mass majority of 10, 11, 12, and 13-second cars.
I 100% agree with you, because now you can take, a perfect example, Mike Corsilli, who we had on last week, his truck. I mean, he's got a regular cab, short bed, cat eye, 05 truck with a ring gapped 6-liter, good cam, good turbo, good trans, runs 960s. He drives it as often as he can. I mean, that would have been unheard of, 8, 10, 15 years ago because of, you just didn't, you couldn't put that kind of power down with a, small block Ford, or at that point you really couldn't with a, 2 or 3 valve, Ford motor.
Right. That's right.
You could, it just cost you a whole lot of money, and everybody just kept leaning on these things and realized, hey, and Holly coming out with all the electronics and HP tuners helping with all the ECU stuff. I mean, it's a great time to be a hot rodder for sure.
With the explosion of drag and drive, I really have to believe that this is what it must have felt like back in the late 60s, early 70s, when drag racing was just exploding. Because back then you had daily driving cars that if you broke, you better fix it because it's what you were going to drive to work on Monday. Yes. I think it's made full circle. In the 80s, we got away from all of that because in the 80s, if you wanted to have a sign that you got a fast car, well, you put it on the trailer on your way to the track. Yeah. But nowadays with drag and drive, if your car's on the trailer, it's a sign you broke and you're out of competition.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you got guys like Rich Guido. I mean, dude drives from Canada, towing his trailer in his race car, races all week, runs 8s, and then drives it back home 7,000-mile round trip. If
you don't know why they call him the Canadian Chuck Norris, you got to do some research on this guy because he is a gorilla. He is an Iron Man. He is a man of men.